She is the presumptive presidential nominee of the Green Party. I want to put up your social media post on Netanyahu that you put out yesterday as he was speaking to Congress. Here it is. We demand, you wrote, that you immediately resign as prime minister, surrender yourself to authorities. Congress may clap for war criminals, but we, the people, will bring you to justice. So you're condemning members of Congress for clapping for Netanyahu. Would you also condemn those protesters burning the flag that we just referenced?
Flag burning is deemed free speech. I was not at that protest. I did not burn the flag. But let me say, I think it's rich to condemn flag burning, but not child burning. And I think that's what most of the protesters were there for, this incredible genocide. And it's not only that Congress claps for genocide, Congress funds genocide. This genocide would not be taking place without the funding of U.S., without weapons from the U.S. And in fact, at that one particular event that burned something like 45 people alive,
right.
There were U.S. weapons found there. So I think that's the issue here.
But you wouldn't condemn both? You wouldn't condemn both and say that both are wrong?
I'm really not so interested in the debate over flag burning. I'm very interested in the debate over child burning. And I think that's something that really deserves our undivided attention right now. There are 500,000 people predicted by the UN to starve to death this month, given the course that Congress has just given bipartisan enthusiastic approval for. It's not only clapping for it, it's standing ovations for it. And this is robbing the American people blind, which is the other part of this discussion. We are spending over half of our congressional budget on these endless wars.
Now, as you know, both parties disagree with that in the United States, not just Republicans. We just heard a moment ago from the White House on this whole idea not only of Netanyahu being a war criminal, but of war crimes being committed in Gaza from John Kirby. Here's what he said.
We don't agree. And as we've said before, we don't find the ICC's finding to be relevant or appropriate in this case. We don't find him to be a war criminal. He's an ally and a partner and a friend.
How would you respond to that? Partner, ally, friend?
That certainly is the point of view of the White House and John Kirby, who enthusiastically support the flow of weapons, these 2,000-pound bombs, which are exploding whole blocks of neighborhoods at one time. These are dropped, many of them, some like 4 or 5 of them were dropped at one time, only 1 to 2 weeks ago on a refugee camp. I mean, I raised a Jew after the Holocaust myself. I grew up with the foundational belief it's not okay to commit genocide and it's not okay to be a bystander to genocide. The U.S. in this case is actually committing the genocide in partnership with Israel, making it possible. Prior U.S. presidents have simply picked up the phone and said the genocide has to stop, or the war crimes or the massacres have to stop. And Ronald Reagan did that, and President Eisenhower. Biden or Harris, they need to do the same thing right now. There's no excuse not to do that.
Yeah, Kirby says they don't see it as a genocide. They disagree with that assertion, as you just heard him say. I want to talk to you about the presidential race.
In contrast to the American people do see this as a genocide and overwhelmingly want this to stop immediately, want an immediate ceasefire and a diplomatic solution.
Let me talk to you about the presidential race for a moment, because, you've been through this before and have had an impact before. When you saw the change, we spent some time talking about these swing state polls and the like for Kamala Harris. When you saw the change at the top of the Democratic ticket, did you reconsider your own candidacy at all in terms of whether you would keep running?
Unfortunately, there is no daylight between Kamala Harris, the vice president, and Joe Biden, the president. And Kamala Harris's own history has been as an enthusiastic supporter of whatever apartheid Israel does. She's been an enthusiastic supporter of AIPAC. She inherits lots of money through the Biden campaign, some $5 million, the second largest recipient of AIPAC funds. She has shown absolutely no sensitivity or understanding of this issue. Yes, some of her rhetoric is a little gentler, and she did not attend the congressional session, but she's meeting in private. So I just don't see a change here that we can hang our hats on in any policy.
So you stay in. Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.